My name is Bobby. I'm the bilingual Spanish youth librarian from the Multnomah County Library at the Kenton location. And today I'm going to read to you from a book that I love called The Only Road by Alexandra Diaz. I'm going to start reading from chapter 3. And before I start, I want to just say that this is not my story. It is not at all a representation of myself, but I think it's really important to read books that are different from ourselves and from our experiences, because that's how we learn about other people and other cultures and all kinds of different things. So I'm going to start reading. Chapter 3. No, Mama shouted so loudly the baby started crying. She ran to Jaime and Angela and hugged them tight. It's too dangerous. Think of something else. We've thought of everything. Papa hid his face in his hands. It's the only way. Jaime could barely breathe, and not just because Mama was squeezing him so hard. The daydream of living in the rainforest suddenly seemed like a vacation. She was right. Going to Tomas was too dangerous. Everyone knew the stories. Gangs robbed you at every turn. Immigration officers beat you up before sending you back home. That had happened to a few people in the village. The papa of one of Jaime's classmates had lost an arm boarding a moving train. Jaime could think of 2 other people from the village who had tried to make the journey and were never heard from again. They were assumed dead. Rosita's best friend, the beautiful Marcela, whom Jaime and Miguel used to argue over who would get to marry, had been abducted near the border of los Estados Unidos. Whispers among the grown-ups claimed she had been sold as a slave. She was still missing. And all of this was just going through Mexico. Then there was crossing the border into los Estados Unidos. But hardest of all was the idea of leaving home to live with Tomas. Tomas, his older brother. Memories of him ranged from hazy to facts based on others' stories. The one time his family went to the beach and Tomas pointed out the colors of the stormy sunset reflected on the water, Jaime knew was a real memory. Every time he witnessed a spectacular sunset with the reds burning into the cool greens and blues, he thought of Tomas and wondered if Tomas could see it too. The sunset would forever stay in Jaime's mind, but Tomas's face had blurred to the poor quality image the village computer showed during their rare Skype calls. And now his papa was talking about Jaime and Angela traveling over 4,000 kilometers to join Tomas. Jaime didn't blame his mama for becoming hysterical. He didn't want to go either. Will it just be us 2? Can't we all go? Jaime wished with all his might that someone would give him a different answer than the one he feared. Glances from the adults shifted from Mama with her limp to Abuela, who struggled to roll out tortillas, then to Rosita and little Kiko. None of them could make the trip, and none of the others would leave them behind. Tío Daniel shook his head and muttered, "We could never afford that. As it is, 2 passages. It's better this way." Papa articulated his words slowly, as if he were trying to convince himself. "And once you're there, you'll be with Tomas, your familia." No, Mama kept repeating. "You can't go. They can't." Angela escaped Mama's grasp, only to have Tia hug her tight in the same tight embrace. Tia looked up at the heavens and wailed, 2 children in 1 week! Why are you punishing me? No one in the kitchen said anything. They just allowed Mama and Tia to continue crying on their children's shoulders, both of whom were the same height as their diminutive mothers. No one told them to stop. No one told them it was going to be okay. It was a while before Mama finally released Jaime. His back was sweaty from where her arms had held him. He wished there were something he could say, something to make her feel better, but this new turn of events had left him numb. If he and Angela stayed, they could end up dead. If they left, they might end up dead. Either way, life was never going to be the same again. Their mamas stared at their children, a second longer before each tucking a loose strand of wavy black hair behind their right ears and sighing. Without realizing it, Abuela used the back of her wrist to do the same with her silver hair. Only those who had been in the kitchen that day knew of the escape plan. Jaime and Angela had to pretend nothing was going on and continue as if they were spending the rest of their lives in their Guatemalan village. Jaime volunteered to help paint the backdrop for the Easter pageant, and Angela told Burguita she would deliver the mysterious packet in a few days. If people thought they were acting weird, hopefully it was excused as mourning Miguel and not because there was something to hide. The hardest part for Jaime was saying goodbye to his friends and extended family without them knowing. He gave his two best friends at school the Batman comic books that Tomas had sent him for Christmas, saying he was tired of not understanding the English words. For his little cousin, he divided his few art supplies. A gut-wrenching feeling told him there were many people he'd never see again. Hopefully the Alfas were among them. A few days after the funeral, Dia Rosario held up jeans that looked a lot like Jaime's favorite pair. Correction, they were his favorite pair. The ink stain on the front left pocket proved it. "You're the one with an eye for detail," she said. "Look at these carefully and see if you notice anything strange." Confused, Jaime took his jeans from his aunt. He searched them up and down. No holes, no new stains. "What's wrong with them?" "Nothing, but look at them again. Pay special attention to the waistband," she said while grabbing a pair that were probably Angela's, judging by the stitching on the back pockets. Jaime squinted at the waistband and ran the material between his fingers. He compared the material with the rest of the pants. He even sniffed it. Nothing. He shook his head. They seem perfectly normal. Dia let out a sigh of relief. "Good. Now whatever you do, don't lose them and don't tell anyone about them. We've exchanged 15,000 quetzales into a little less than 2,000 US dollars and sewed them into the waistband and cuffs. Don't use any of it unless absolutely necessary until you get to the border of El Norte. Even then, it might not be enough to pay for the crossing. If someone tries to rob you, hopefully no one will know the money's there." Jaime collapsed into a chair, gripping his sketchbook tight to his chest. 15,000 quetzales for the two of us? The words came out in a whisper. Dia shook her head no. She squinted at the seams one more time. Glasses were a rich person's accessory. "For each of you." The world seemed to tilt as he blinked and took several deep breaths. 30,000 quetzales. Jaime couldn't imagine that much money. No wonder they were taking days to prepare, just to gather all that money. His insides twisted with guilt. He was going to be sick. The whole family was making sacrifices for him, doing this because of him. It wasn't worth it. He wasn't worth it. "You can't do this." The words spilled out of him like marbles from a ripped sack. "It's too much. We'll stay." "You won't." Dia interrupted with such determination it sounded like Abuela speaking. "All our work won't be for nothing. You're going so you can be safe." End of discussion. But 30,000 quetzales? Of course he and Angela were the only ones leaving. The family couldn't afford to send anyone else. He doubted his parents together made that in a year. Just because he hadn't been at the park with Miguel. "All our work won't be for nothing," he repeated Diaz's words. But if they really had to take this trip, a lot could happen. 4,000 kilometers was a long way. If only he and Angela had passports and papers that said they could enter los Estados Unidos legally, like Tomas. "Are you sure it's well hidden?" Now that he knew what was in the pants, he kept imagining incriminating lumps in the seams or loud crinkles in the fabric. Dia gave him an odd smile that combined worry with pride. "We can only thank the Lord he gave me a job sewing at the jeans factory. I know how the seams should look." Jaime looked one last time at the jeans, pretending he didn't know what they held. The neat rows of stitches on the waistband did look exactly like they were supposed to. Moonlight was streaming through the empty windows when his papa shook him awake. "It's time." Okay. I hope you finish reading this and get to the bottom of what happened if they make it to Los Estados Unidos and see how their journey is. You can find copies of this book by going to our library's website at milcolib.org, and you can type The Only Road, and you can get this book in ebook version and downloadable audiobooks, and you can put the book on hold itself. Thank you. Bye.